welcome to 2026. I reviewed quite a few horror movies on this channel, but now it's time to review something sickeningly sweet for a change. Today's film is a 1960 classic produced by Disney called Pollyanna. So the movie is based on this little book here by Eleanor H. Porter. The story of Pollyanna centers around a young girl in a small American town whose sunny disposition seems to rub off on everybody she comes across. Eleanor Porter would go on to write a follow-up book called Pollyanna Grows Up, and the character of Pollyanna would become featured in a series of books simply known as the Glad Books. And the first book in the series would become a subject of quite a few film adaptations. Notably, there was a 1927 film starring Mary Pickford, as well as a made-for-TV version in 2003. But it's the 1960 Disney classic we're going to be taking a look at today, which I believe many consider to be the definitive movie version of this story. And I'm not ashamed to say it, this is legit one of my favorite movies of all time. So, moving on, here's a quick recap of the film. So the movie takes place in a small American town known as Harrington Town. At the beginning of the film, we see a train arrive in town, and this is where we meet our main heroine, Pollyanna. And Pollyanna has now been adopted by her wealthy aunt, and once she's in her aunt's care, she finds herself in this strange new house, in this strange new town. And it turns out that Pollyanna's aunt is none other than Polly Harrington, of the Harrington family that basically founded the whole town. Now, with Pollyanna's new situation, things kind of start looking up. She really gets accustomed to her new life. Fancy meals, fancy new clothes, etc. Pollyanna's basic needs are all met, but there seems to be one thing that her Aunt Polly cannot provide her with, and that is genuine motherly affection, real love. It quickly turns out that Aunt Polly's character is very Puritan, not just in the way she raises Pollyanna, but also in the way that she runs the entire town. She uses her wealth and influence to keep everyone under her thumb. And that includes the local minister, whom Aunt Polly has deliver scathing sermons every Sunday to put the scare in people and keep them in line. You know, make sure that everyone is behaving in completely moral fashion and not giving in to their passions or anything. So essentially, Aunt Polly is the main antagonist in the film, but despite her puritanical leanings, you can sense that she's just a deeply conflicted character. However, due to Polly's actions, Harrington Town is a very divisive community, filled with jaded and cynical people.
You ever hear of sour stomach? Well, Sundays around here give folks sour stomach for the whole rest of the week.
And during a civic meeting where Aunt Polly and Mayor Carl Warren have it out, Pollyanna really starts to take notice of how fragmented the community really is.
Exactly.
And this becomes a turning point where Pollyanna takes it upon herself to introduce people to a game that she herself invented called the Glad Game.
What is all this glad business you talk about?
Oh, just a game I play. Game my father taught me. Helps sometimes.
Helps what?
When things aren't going so well.
So over the course of the next few days, Pollyanna gets to know some of the local residents of the town. She befriends a character named Jimmy Bean, who gets into all kinds of mischief around town. Pollyanna also encounters some other pretty eccentric people, including Old Man Pendergast, who lives by himself in a secluded mansion in town, as well as a cranky invalid named Mrs. Snow. And Pollyanna makes an effort to befriend each one of them, teaching them to find something to be glad about. Meanwhile, we have another subplot involving the character of Dr. Edmund Chilton. It turns out that Chilton and Aunt Polly used to have some romantic chemistry together, and he also happens to be the nephew of Mayor Carl Warren, and refuses to get caught in the middle of the dispute between the mayor and Aunt Polly. Pollyanna meets Dr. Chilton, and she kind of tries to play matchmaker when she hears about Chilton and Aunt Polly's previous romantic involvement, hoping to rekindle that old flame between the two. So, one day at a time, Pollyanna manages to cure the townspeople of their cynicism, eventually galvanizing people into uniting against Polly's influence. So they decide to set up this huge bazaar as a local charity for the community. But Aunt Polly expressly forbids Pollyanna from attending the bazaar, leading Pollyanna to sneak out, and then when she tries to sneak back into the house, she gets into a really bad accident. And this is where Pollyanna's optimism is truly put to the test. Will it be able to save her? Will she be able to get through this ordeal? So, to summarize this movie, this is a small-town drama that combines wholesome storytelling, infused with a powerful social message about optimism, about coming together as a community. And even though the movie is around 2 hours long, and it's not the most action-driven film, it is a movie that flows beautifully. And it simply doesn't feel like a 2-hour-long movie to me. I would say that one of the key appeals of this movie lies in the setting. Like the original novel, the movie is set in the early 1900s, and there is something slightly magical about this period. Throughout cinema, you'll find that many Hollywood musicals seem to be drawn to this period, that early 1900s Americana setting. And in movies like Pollyanna, for example, there is something captivating about that turn of the century America with all its vibrant culture, and you see like industrialization on the rise, early automobiles, dawn of consumerism and all that. And in the 60s, during Walt Disney's final years, it seems that he was also quite drawn to this period with movies like Mary Poppins and The Happiest Millionaire. These movies were both fueled by the same kind of nostalgia. Not to mention that early 1900s aesthetic, it's very prominent in certain parts of Disney World, notably Main Street, USA. But all that aside, Pollyanna stands out among those movies where, despite its impressive Technicolor production, it feels like a much more grounded film compared to those musicals like Mary Poppins and The Happiest Millionaire. The movie doesn't feel the need to embellish itself with like lavish production design or colorful musical numbers. The camera work just kind of hangs back and allows you to enjoy the setting. And it feels like the town itself is as much of a character as Pollyanna herself. And aside from the outdoor scenes, there is a lot of nice interior design showcased in this movie. Notably, Aunt Polly's house, which is this nice, very large, beautiful house. But the interior of the house also evokes a kind of spatial relationship. That captures the loneliness and isolation of Aunt Polly's character, as well as the emotional distance between her and Pollyanna. You really get the feeling that Aunt Polly is a very refined woman of immense wealth, and she's basically capable of giving anything except love. But one thing I'll say about the movie is that I don't think it would work as well without its impeccable casting. For the most part, the movie features some very simple dialogue. It's the actors and their delivery that really makes the dialogue work. Every line delivered in the film, it just lands perfectly.
All right, come in, but you can't stay long.
Can he come in too?
Can who come in?
And this is where I should talk about the movie's main star, Hayley Mills. This was Mills' debut film, and she would become a future star at Disney, as she would go on to appear in many different Disney productions, including the original Parent Trap that later got remade into a 90s film starring Lindsay Lohan. And for this film, she would receive the Juvenile Academy Award in 1961, the last person to be given that kind of award. Now, it should be stated that the character of Pollyanna, as she's known in the book, has gained some reputation of being a one-note, saccharine character.
Today, to be called a Pollyanna is not entirely complimentary. It means somebody who is so everlastingly optimistic and sunny and cheerful that you can hardly stand it. Actually, even the original Pollyanna didn't go quite that far. And certainly our Pollyanna doesn't in the story we're about to bring you on the wonderful world of color.
As she appears in this movie, at least, Hayley Mills does manage to give her a more multi-dimensional side. The Pollyanna in the 1960 Disney film has a more pugnacious, scrappy side to her, where she even comes across kind of bratty at times. But those moments never undermine her character, where she never strays away from her goal of trying to get through people's defensive walls and try to get them to become the best version of themselves. And that makes Hayley Mills' performance very iconic in my book. And I will say that as for the supporting characters, my favorite performances include Mrs. Snow, played by Agnes Moorehead.
She's gallivanting somewhere, and the doctor, all he gives you is pills. Pills and pills. Just pills and pills. That's all.
And I love Agnes Moorehead. She's delightful in every movie she appears in. At the outset, she's shown to be like one of the most cantankerous characters in the movie, but later grows to be Pollyanna's most loyal friend. And then you have Dr. Chilton, played by Richard Eakin. I will say that with repeated viewings of this film, his character has really grown on me. He comes across as a mirror image of Pollyanna, someone who wants to do good, but ultimately becomes a more reluctant hero.
Hey, Doc, you just sit there chewing on that straw. Put in your 2 bits worth. What do you think?
I came here to fish, Charlie. I don't want to butt into your affairs here.
And I feel that with Chilton becoming a doctor and wanting to help people, he's essentially the same kind of character as Pollyanna, someone who wants to see the best in people, except he just never saw people's humanity the same way Pollyanna does. So to conclude this review, I just want to say this unironically is one of my absolute favorite movies made by Disney. It's just my ultimate feel-good movie. You know, for a lot of people, it might be movies like It's a Wonderful Life, but for me, the ultimate comfort movie is Disney's Pollyanna.
You have to admit that.
I don't have to admit anything.
I just really think that this movie has stood the test of time because of the aura it emits, the levels of like personal feeling that went into it. Because it's a movie that's fueled by Disney's own nostalgia for that early 1900s period, the period that he grew up in. So essentially, it's a movie that encapsulates the central theme of Eleanor Porter's novel, as well as that turn-of-the-century America that Walt Disney himself was so captivated by. So that concludes today's review, and I just want to say happy 2026. So until next time, stay tuned. This is the guy from row 9, signing out.
Show you where the deliveries are supposed to be made.
What kind of deliveries?
Charity baskets,
Oh,
child.
the suffering in this world.
Dwell on it. Appreciate how lucky you are.